How y'all doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing good.
What's your name again?
Jesse, I'm the owner.
Very nice
Nice to meet you. And you, sir?
What happened?
I sliced my pinky with a butter knife.
Oh,
Cut the
boy.
tendon.
Stop.
So I had to have surgery. What level is your dog's collar set to?
121.
You're on 21?
No,
What
not 21. What?
121?
What is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 121. Go ahead and throw that over here, please.
No, but
121. Okay, so is this a...
when you hit the other one,
What model is this? Oh, that's why. Okay, go ahead and have a seat.
side ones are.
No. Go ahead and make yourself comfortable. Who filled out the form? Your daughter?
Pardon?
Your daughter? Or was it you guys?
She is the one who called.
Okay. So we record our training sessions, Zoom sessions, and consultations. Did she make you aware of that?
No, but it's fine.
Okay. The reason why I was saying oh right here, I think she's parking right now, maybe.
Stop.
Yeah, she was a few minutes away.
Is that remote is meant for like a 35-pound dog.
I know.
Okay. So, because right now when you're at 121 and the dog is barely like responding to it, it's the size difference. So
But when
definitely
you hit the side ones, that's very powerful though.
correct. But you see how he's still anxious right now. So the collar should settle your dog down. But right now when you tap him, you're tapping him. At least from what I saw at 121, he was still all over the place. So I was like, if you're tapping at 121, that's not right. The dog should just respond. So that's why I was like, toss me your remote. Then I looked at it and I'm like, let me try 50. I tapped him at 50. He got back up again. And then I looked on the back of your remote and it says dog to 280C. Okay. So a 280C is meant for a 35-pound and under dog. So what we end up seeing is these larger dogs that are too big for the collar, is you end up extraordinarily high. 121 is almost max power. Because that collar caps at 127, right? But you see how he's back to being uneasy again? With the appropriate collar, the dog should already be settled and not anxious and stimulated like this. Does that make sense?
I know.
Go.
No, because where he went to board and train too, I know we were just telling him what a couple little issues, and one time he did mention what maybe he would need a stronger
Collar? Yeah.
collar.
Let me call my...
I mean, I didn't really even know that was only up to that.
Yeah, I'll explain too. I
Okay.
think your daughter's here.
Okay.
It looks like she tried to walk in, but it looks like she went across the street. Hey, Corey. I believe the daughter is here. If you don't mind letting her in, I think she may have ran across to Canine University, thinking that she was at the wrong place. Just heads up. Okay, thanks.
We park like on the side over
You're
here.
good. Yeah. As long as you're on Clark Street, you're okay.
I'm on Lake.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Lake. Yes, Lake. Alrighty. So, you said the previous trainer talked about having a.
Well, at one time, he did mention that. I don't know if it was when we had like did like an extra like private thing or whatever, and he just mentioned it in case, yeah.
When was the remote collar training done? Like at what age?
Oh, God, when did he have that? He's
Probably
now 3. Was he like
1.5.
1.5 years
Okay.
old?
I mean, he was. I'm assuming near this size because after a year, a dog is grown into their full size for the most part. They might put on some pounds. Usually, when I see this, it's when the dog is trained as a puppy, right? And then obviously as they mature, they grow bigger and then they need to be upgraded. Usually what I do with my clients is I tell them, if I know your dog's gonna become a 120-pound dog, I'll tell them just buy the appropriate collar for when they're 120 pounds and then they'll grow into it,
Sit.
So I'll wait for your daughter to come in and we'll go more over that. But whenever, because I read over the consultation form, because it looks like we had, is it leash reactivity towards dogs?
Well, he probably has some of that, right?
What?
With the other dogs?
Well, he did when.
Yes.
Hi. Go and have a seat.
But, no, stop it. the thing is, also like, it's, movement when we're walking him, bicycles and joggers.
Okay.
In his path,
Yeah. Okay.
if they're in the same sidewalk,
Sure. I can see
he
what.
gets, startled.
Sure. Alright. So go ahead and have a seat here. There's one more chair just beside Dad. So, who's the training for? Is it for you guys? Is it for your daughter? Is it for everybody? What's the goal here?
Everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you thinking about like in person or like a boarding train type option?
We don't know.
Whatever probably would be most beneficial for him.
Okay.
Last time we did board and train, and there was like a session at the end where he taught us like everything that like he learned, like commands and everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like especially for them, because he's mostly with my parents, because they just have more space for him in the yard and everything. Because I'm the one that lives in the city.
So you guys are from Deerfield?
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit of a trek.
Yeah.
I used to live in Deerfield too.
We're right very close to the church.
Yeah. I used to live. So my stepdad owns the house, but his home was like 3 or 4 blocks north of like is it like the metro train track there?
Yeah, exactly. That's where we are.
Yeah. So I lived there for about a month, and I used to go to and from the city about 2 to 3 times a day because my dogs were up there and I had to take care of them. And I spent like $300 in tolls in a month, plus gas was like $500. One time I got stuck in traffic for 3 hours. It was like, I can't do this, and I ended up moving back to the city. So, yeah, I'm familiar with Deerfield. Okay, so I was just going over with your parents right now. Something that I noticed is that the remote that you have here is meant for like a 35-pound dog and under.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you remember Ulysses one time mentions about us?
I mean, yeah.
A
I mean, like
stronger
we're
collar
basically
possibly
maxed,
or
like
Yeah.
on this remote.
Yes,
Yeah.
because when your dad came in, I saw that he had the remote, so he started correcting him. So I was like, oh, what number are you correcting him at? And then he's like, I'm at 121. So I was
Yeah.
like, 121? And he was barely kind of responding to it.
Right,
So your dad tossed it to me. Sure enough, he was at 121.
Yeah.
I dropped it down to 50. I tapped him, and he relaxed for like a brief second. But then he's back to this.
Yeah.
So with the appropriate collar, the dog should already be relaxed, calmed down, and laying down. Okay.
Right,
The other
When
thing
you
that
hit the side buttons, that kind of like he squeaks,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like,
He
Then-
hasn't,
yeah,
he hasn't done that lately.
yeah?
I haven't noticed it lately though.
What are you talking about?
Like sometimes then when you turned it up,
No,
if
he
we needed
does.
to press it, he used to like go eek and then stop.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's
Maybe-
probably gotten used to like the stimulation that
Either
like it's
do they
like
get
that's
used
why
to
we
it,
had to go
or
up
with
so
him being
much.
a little bit bigger, his coat and the thing get thicker where it doesn't.
So a couple things can
react?
happen. One is the size difference, right? Because
Sure.
he's like what, 70 to 80 pounds?
He's
almost
95.
95 pounds. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have that 60-pound difference. So think of it as like a featherweight boxer versus like a heavyweight boxer, right? There's reasons why we have different classes
Shit.
of weights so that we make sure that we pair people correctly or fairly.
Shit.
So here you have a collar meant for like a dog that's this big, for a dog that's like 4 times the size.
Decide.
What can happen is that there's another variable here which I'll get to, but you want to think that we have the size of your dog, we have the thickness of the coat, we have the stress levels of the dog. Like currently your dog is anxious and overstimulated, right? All these factors can override the collar. So whenever I give a client a recommendation, I have to make sure I recommend them the appropriate collar. Otherwise, if the dog ends up like this, where they're too stressed that the collar's not working, then they have to go out and spend more money to get the appropriate collar. So for example, I have a dog here doing a tune-up program who is on the model that's above that collar. Now their dog is like 40 to 45-ish pounds. So that collar that she has is meant for a 70-pound dog and under, which is correct. The owner has been struggling with getting the dog to be off-leash reliable. Okay, so they went out of town, so they're doing a tune-up program, and she asked, could you push her towards off-leash reliability? I said, sure. We were working with her, and we ended up capping the collar. We were at 127. And you could see this happening to the dog, but she wasn't yelping, and she didn't care, and she wouldn't move. So she was completely non-responsive. So we upped her to the higher powered collar, And then she started responding to 80, 85 and giving us everything that we're looking for. And she was running to us, coming to us quickly. She was no longer ignoring the collar. So in that case, they bought the appropriate collar, but the one thing that we didn't think would have happened, which is the dog went under too much stress and said, I don't care about this anymore. Does that make sense? And just blocked it out. That's something that's super rare. I've had maybe in a career of 12 years, 3 to 5 dogs do that, where they'll just override the collar and they won't care about it. Usually we know going into it that this dog didn't have any behavioral issues. It was just a completely stable dog. But after working with the higher powered collar, now she's receptive to the lower powered collar. Okay. And for this guy, he is clearly above the weight class of the collar there. The other thing is, was the collar conditioned correctly? Which is, does the dog know what it's conveying? Does the dog know when it feels the collar what to do in response? Okay, you would be surprised how many clients bring their dogs to me from other trainers who are trained on e-collar but weren't conditioned correctly. Okay, usually when a dog's not conditioned correctly, you'll see them under stress a lot when they have the collar on because they don't know when it's going to happen. Typically, people think punishment based, which is I have this tool. It's a bad thing. If the dog does something, I'm going to just give them the bad thing, right? But if they don't understand why that thing is turning on or how to turn it off, you tend to create more stress. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you guys drove here, correct? Imagine you go outside and you find a ticket on your car. You look at the ticket and there's no reason, okay? You're probably going to get pissed off. And the next day, you wake up to a ticket on your car. You look at the ticket, there's no reason. And every day this keeps repeating. You're going to get very frustrated, you're going to get pissed off because you're going to think, how do I avoid this ticket? You're not giving me a reason so I can fix it, right? Same thing for the dog. The dog keeps getting the collar and the dog goes, I don't know what to do. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So anytime we use the collar, it should always either push the dog into what we're looking for and or relax the dog. Okay? So it's either one of two things and or both things if not. Does that make sense? Questions on any of this stuff so far?
No, like before we're doing the collar, I mean, it was kind of like, you know, if there was something you'd say like no, but you kind of had then, like, the collar had to be, I mean, the thing had to be pressed at the same time. Mm-hmm. If you say no, so he knows that
like not to do
that, like he did something. I mean, you don't just press it and then later on say no, because he's not going to know like what I did. Kind of
I think that's how it was.
Is that?
It was conditioned like that for him, like, it was more so of like the training base that where he would do something that he wasn't supposed to, it was associated with the word no. So at the same time, we would say no to him and press the collar.
The problem with that theory is that, you said he barks at bikes and stuff?
Well,
not barks, but like he will like
issue with him.
He'll chase.
Yeah, he'll chase or lunge or try to knock the person off the bike because he thinks they're coming. I feel like he thinks that they're going to hurt him or one of us who's walking.
Does he have any
him.
prey drive, like squirrels, rabbits, birds?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds like prey drive.
And also joggers, because we had a couple instances with the joggers and him jumping and whatnot.
So he's not barking, he's just lunging.
He doesn't bark like
I mean, he'll bark when he sees another dog.
But
Then he knows he can't get there.
defense mechanism, because we had an issue with him, with the jogger and him jumping and nipping her arm.
Yeah.
He got, he gets startled,
I
turns
wrote
around,
that
someone's
in
coming at him, running.
It was like the question like why we were bringing him, and it was because it's happened twice now, like pretty recently, like within each other, that when we were walking him outside, somebody was running. Two times this happened, and he
From behind
like
us though, where we
that we didn't see them
we
coming,
didn't
and then
see them
he
in
just
time to
like
either-
went after them and like jumped on them and like bit their arm. So
Because he's got 2 write-ups, is that correct?
he's had 2.
Okay. And then, because I read the consult this morning before I started my day. So we call that reactivity. It's strange because you're not getting barking, you're just getting the lunge, whereas most dogs tend to lunge and bark. But it's technically still classified as reactivity. When you did your previous boarding train on the pickup and you said you did a follow-up lesson, correct? Mm-hmm. Did they teach you how to heal him?
They did do heel, like when we would be like walking and he's supposed to like walk next to us, but it was still something that like I felt like we struggled with after. Like it was a start with it, like he did it with other dogs where we would walk him directly next to another dog, like in the training setting, and even in the follow-up lesson, there were a few dogs where he had issues with. I don't know why it was these specific dogs, because some dogs he would have issues with, and some he wouldn't.
Okay.
So like there was a really...
Even in the training setting?
In the training setting, we took him to the trainer's house where he had like a lot of dogs there.
Yeah.
And he would like play with
in
like
the fenced area,
the other
running around
like
with 5
dogs.
dogs.
Yeah.
And then when we went by the street just to do a walk by with another dog he had in his garage, it was like a big white Samoan fuzzy thing. I don't know what it was, but
that was the one, like the instance where he like reacted to that dog and like growled, and we had to like pull him back.
Did they show you how to correct that?
So I mean, in that instance, like we explained before, like they were utilizing like the collar as like a no sense. So like that was how like we tried to, but ultimately, I think we were having issues at that point where we were also maxed on the corrector. So I mean, like
and
he
you know,
almost
now
had
it's
to
just
like
he's
pull
strong,
him.
and when
I mean, he's
pulling,
100 pounds. He's strong.
if you
too.
can't control him or get him to stop with the collar right away, he starts getting a memento of pulling.
Yeah.
95 pounds, that's like 95 times 2.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Okay, and then when it came to the heel stuff, because they reviewed heel with you, correct?
yes.
Did they show you how to correct heel if he broke heel?
I mean, like, I feel like it was just, like, multiple attempts, like, trying, like, again, after he broke heel, like, we would take him away from the situation and then try and reinsert him again, like, try again if he broke heel.
So in that moment, like, you're walking with your dog, training,
And he
right?
breaks heel.
They did not show you real time how to fix that?
I mean, real time, they
remember.
would, like, if he broke heel, it was more so of just, like, a correction with the collar, like, saying no, that he was not
And
doing
then
it
what?
correctly.
And then what would you do after the no? So I'm trying to, because
Yeah,
what
sorry.
you're telling me, because I'm already gambling and leaning towards they did not condition him correctly. There's some other stuff there that's incorrect. But I can usually tell when an owner does the follow-up of a board and train, the follow-up is meant to show you this is what your dog has learned. This is how we fix these things, right? But the reason why I say real time is life happens real time. If you're out in the street, if you're walking down the sidewalk and you see a dog and he leaves your side or becomes reactive or whatever, you need to know how to fix that real time, right? You don't always have the ability to step off to the side or like cross the street or turn around, right? Like there's stuff that you need to be able to do in the moment to control and contain the situation, recover from it, teach them not to do that, and then continue to live life. Does that make sense? And at some point you would anticipate the dog would stop the reactivity.
Well, didn't he say, like, when we were doing it, when we were doing the crossing with, like, a dog, like, in the lot there, about, using the collar and the heel, and just,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Like, he's saying it needs to be corrected in real time, not just like the collar. Obviously, that's.
And the other thing is like you were already maxed out during the training session.
That during the follow-up.
Yeah, the follow-up.
Like we did a follow-up, I think it was like a month later or something, like a few weeks later, where we went to like the facility where he had all the dogs. And he was even like suggesting, he like brought up at that time where we might need like a stronger like collar. But like if that was started like to begin with, then like it wasn't like right for him like in the first place.
Yeah. Like right now, I could tell that it wasn't the right collar for your dog within a couple of minutes. You said, typically what happens is, so e-collar in the dog training world is looked down upon. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. In the dog training world, there's a lot of drama. There's trainers that use prong collar, they use remote collar, they use gentle leader, they use positive reinforcement, food stuff, right? There's trainers that use all sorts of stuff. Remote collar is probably one of the most controversial tools in dog training because people think it's torture, they think it's inhumane, they think it's you're hurting the dog. And I always tell clients like dogs bite each other. Like your dog is giving you 2 prime examples, right? That he's been written up for, and he cannot have a third, right? is dogs bite each other, and they bite humans, and they bite anything that they perceive might be a threat, okay? Think of the e-collar as a means of biting your dog at the press of a button. Does that make sense? So I look at this tool and I say it's a great tool because it's the only tool that allows us to get as close to a dog bite as possible without causing the physical harm of a dog bite. Does that make sense? So, but in the dog training world, like I said, a lot of drama. So what ends up happening is one, dog trainers will treat the tool as either a last resort, or because the tool is an investment, a good quality collar is a few $100s, right? Is they tend to go with these more affordable models to be able to sell more. Does that make sense? And then, because you're not the first, you're not going to be the last. A client who's come to me from another, either e-collar trainer, they either put them on the wrong collar or the program didn't work.
Because he was saying that one time too, that maybe after a while, he's not even gonna need the e-collar,
No, that's a lie.
right?
Yeah.
He did
Yeah.
say that.
So the reason why I say that's a lie is you guys drive, right? On the expressway, did you go the speed limit or did you speed?
You always speed.
Yeah, right? And then what happens when you see the squad car?
Slow down.
You slow down. You see how that works? So think of the collar as a cop on the collar. When the collar is present, your dog is going to behave better. When it's not present, your dog is going to be aware and impress the boundaries. So it's nothing to do with the tool itself, even if it was on the appropriate collar or whatever. This is what we call opportunistic behavior. All animals do it. It's a part of instinct, okay? So for a dog, or survival instinct, for a dog, if he's like, hey, we're walking outside, I don't like that dog, and you don't have that collar on me, so I'm gonna bark at that dog, because there's no consequence. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The issue you have is, even if you provided the dog consequence, it's just not the appropriate consequence, because he's a bigger dog. He needs a higher consequence.
I mean, yeah. I mean, when you put it on and you hold the remote and you don't press it, but he sees you grab it,
He knows.
he knows. Because maybe from before when he was a little smaller and it was giving him that shock, that he would stop and you could see his ears go back and he would sit and he'd pause for a moment.
For a moment.
Even before, even before you even pressed it. I mean, you hold it up to him and just, he would be.
Yeah. So that what we would call is like threatening consequence, right? I have this now, which we never do. Anytime that we have the opportunity to give the dog consequence, we always do. That's actually how you start to move past using the collar as much as you are in the beginning, because the dog knows it's guaranteed they're going to get corrected. Okay. Me growing up, I was raised old school. I was spanked. As a kid growing up, I talked back to my mom once. Okay, she corrected me. I learned that lesson very quickly. You see that? Dogs are the same. The issue with dogs is that because they're physical creatures, they nip and bite each other. They nip and bite their puppies as young as 3 to 4 weeks. They're built for physicality. Does that make sense? That's why if you ever watch YouTube videos, you'll see a dog with a broken leg and they'll be walking like it's not in pain. Because if they show weakness, they become a target for a predator. Does that make sense? So that's why they have a higher tolerance for pain and discomfort. So here, anytime a dog gives an opportunity, like my facility here, we can have as many as 50 to 60, maybe even 70 dogs on a really, really busy day, and it's still just as quiet. Okay, we have maybe like 20 dogs today because it's a weekend, it's usually slow on the weekends, but during the weekdays it's busy. But it's quiet because all the dogs know the rules. All the dogs know if they bark or get out of line, or if they whine, or if they're reactive, they're going to be corrected. And because of that, they keep themselves in check. Does that make sense? The other thing is, most people get dogs for companionship, right? They get dogs to be their buddy. I don't tell my friends what to do, and my friends don't tell me what to do. That's not what a friendship relationship is like, right? But I have employees. I'm an employer, I own this business. I can tell them what to do, right? But they can't tell me what to do. You see that relationship there? So for dogs, this relationship of like, you're not gonna be reactive, you're gonna behave yourself, you're gonna sit when I tell you, that's a leadership, that's a parent to child, boss to employee kind of relationship. Does that make sense? But if you're practicing more companionship with your dog's like, you cuddle me, you give me treats, right?
Yeah.
You give me lots of love and affection. So why should I listen to you when you tell me to stop doing something or to do something? You see that? So my job is, of course, one, make sure the dog is appropriately trained, make sure you understand the technology correctly, but also understand the social dynamic that you have between your dog. Because I get lots of clients who are strict on the discipline, but they're also very generous with the affections.
Yeah.
And because they're very generous with the affection, the dog never takes them seriously. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Questions on any of that?
Okay, is there any dog race that you can't break?
Any dog what?
Like,
Type of dog?
No. I can take, how'd you say? I tell my clients, I can take you as far as you're willing to go, right? Because I get some pretty aggressive cases. Every case is different. Sometimes it's pretty straightforward. Sometimes it's very difficult. So if the owner is not willing to work through the difficulty or do what's necessary to correct the behavior, stop the behavior, we're not going to get anywhere. It doesn't matter if I can do it, because I know I can do it. It's just a matter of, is the owner going to be able to replicate or reinforce, right? So like, I like that when you came in, you were at 121. I like that, okay? Because I go, all right, he's almost maxed out in the collar. That tells me he's willing to at least go up there. The issue is, it's just not appropriate to the dog,
Yeah.
right? He needs more output. I get clients that go, I don't like going above 35. And I'm like, well, if you don't want to go above 35 and your dog needs 60, we got a discrepancy there. We're not going to be able to fix the problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's usually the biggest factor in training when we work with our clients is they're not willing to go to the extent needed on the collar to correct the behavior.
No, but see,
how high does that one go up?
the 127. But the thing is, this thing has 3 different buttons. So when you hit the side buttons, that hurts him more.
Mm-hmm.
Then this thing is kind of like giving him a warning.
Mm-hmm.
The other one's kind of like telling him not to do it.
And then the bottom one of the side is like
A
a,
continuous.
continuous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
this is the brand that he uses. He knows
Yeah.
this brand.
Yeah, this is the best brand there is. The issue is just the model is meant for a small dog. Yeah. So I never use the vibration.
see, that's what I'm saying. Like this one is kind of like giving him a massage.
Yeah, that we never.
I don't use that.
Yeah, we don't use the vibration
I don't
button.
ever press that one, I always press the side
That's the
top.
side.
What if you press the side top one now?
Well, don't do that now.
No.
Okay, well, I just wanted.
Yeah, because what's your number currently set to?
Now I put it on 85.
Okay. Throw me your remote, please. Okay. Okay, and you're just gonna hold your leash like that, okay? I'll do this for you. Other questions so far?
Okay. I don't know, like, I don't know if this was how many months ago. I don't know if I didn't have the e-collar on properly or it was too tight or what was happening. But then he ended up getting 2 little marks on his neck.
You probably left it on for too long.
Or too long, it gets hot or whatever.
they're
And
called,
so then when that happened, then I felt so bad. I felt like
But it went away.
it went away,
They're called pressure sores.
Oh, yeah.
They're meant from the.
Yeah, I know, I Googled it to check to see what to do, whatever, and then it got better. And
Yeah.
then, of course, when I saw it at first, my first reaction was, oh my God.
You burned them.
I burned them, and I felt so bad, like, I felt like a cruel person,
No.
you know?
Yeah, every
But,
2 hours you want to rotate the
I
collar.
thought maybe, yeah, that's why now if we put it on, I always take it off, like, after,
Well, when
Comes
he's like
back in the house.
sleeping and stuff too.
Pardon?
Like, he doesn't need to wear that.
I know,
Yeah.
now, because before I think we had it
take
on
it
like
off.
all day, now I take it off when he comes back in the house after.
Yeah, so when I tell my clients is, one, I don't sell them the dream of it's going to go away at some point. Because realistically speaking, it's not going to happen, right? Like otherwise, we wouldn't have cops. We have cops for a reason, because people break the laws, they speed, they run traffic lights, they run stop signs, right? I do rolling stops all the time, you know? But that's what consequences for, right? You guys ever run a red light and get a
Yeah.
red light ticket? You got one?
Yep.
Yep, it's $100, right? You get the ticket in the mail, you're like, oh, that sucks. You're gonna ignore him here? Don't pet him.
Don't touch him.
Imagine if that red light ticket was $1,000. Would you be as willing to run the red light?
No.
No. But $100 you might gamble, right? So it's the same thing for dogs. It's finding the consequence appropriate enough to the behavior to get the dog to stop doing what they're doing, but then also to do what you tell them. Now, if you're practicing the training correctly, the use of this becomes less, for sure, okay? Will it ever disappear or go away? No, not when you need it. If he's a great dog inside the house, you don't need it. If he's a great dog in the yard, you don't need it. But if he has issues on the walk, you need it,
Yeah.
right? If he's gonna run the other dogs, you need it. Like you start to know the times where he's gonna have the most issue, and you go, I definitely need my collar, right? Sometimes, let's say he loves people, guests come over, he's super excited. Maybe the first 15 minutes you have the collar on to control and contain him,
Right.
but then he relaxes, you take the collar off.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
usually
hap-
the case.
That's
Yeah.
happened,
Yeah.
And
You
then
know.
he's like, yeah.
But the thing of like at one point this goes away is a lie.
Yeah.
You know, it's usually, again, it's said because it makes the owner feel good to think at some point this bad thing is going to go away.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I don't consider it that much of a bad thing. I feel like it's control for me keeping him under control and for him not making a situation.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, I don't feel it as a bad thing though.
Yeah.
but-
No, yeah, I'm not saying that you specifically do,
Yeah.
but it's something that's very commonly said because most people do. Like, people don't like thinking that they're hurting their dog, right? That's why positive reinforcement is such a popular method, because it makes people feel good to think that they can fix their dog's problems with treats and affection, right? Like, if that was the truth, then I would be using treats and affection to work with all my dogs. We use treats for puppies under 6 months. We use treats to help dogs build confidence in case, and if they're food motivated, some dogs just won't even take the food, right? But I don't rely on the food to get me reliable results. But I know this, if I have the appropriate collar, will get me reliable results, right? So you see how he's laying down longer here? Because I have him down to 50 right now, okay? But I tapped him as soon as he gave me the remote a few times there. He laid down. 2 minutes later, he gets up, he comes over here looking for comfort. I correct him there too. So the reason why I didn't want you to give him affection there is he was seeking comfort. Okay, why do you think he's seeking comfort?
Because he's anxious.
Yes, he's stressed and anxious, right? So he's like, Dad, help me, right?
Yeah.
So if you give him affection, you're telling him you should feel this way. And instead, I corrected him for it. And I said, you're gonna have to deal with that stress and anxiety yourself. I'm teaching him how to be independent, right? But we do it through physicality. I'm another dog nipping and biting him, going, if you're seeking comfort, I'm going to correct you for that. You have to learn to deal with this on your own. Okay? Otherwise, what the person is thinking they're doing versus how the dog interprets it is very different. Okay? A lot of people go, oh, I'm just trying to console my dog. I go, I understand that as a human. The dog doesn't understand it as consolation. The dog thinks petting is a reinforcer. So if you say sit, and he sits, good boy, you would pet him, right? Because he did something good. So then he thinks, oh, okay, I want to get pet again, so when you say sit, I'm going to sit. So then, if he's stressed and or anxious, and you're petting him, you want to relax him. But he's hearing, I should feel this way. You want me to be this way. Does that make sense? So positive reinforcement, if you're doing treats or even affection, you want to think, is what my dog doing right now something I want him to do again? Okay, and if the answer is no, then we don't pet or give treats. Does that make sense? So I see it all the time on the streets where people's dogs are lunging and barking, and they'll crouch down and they'll pet the dog going, it's okay, it's okay. Clearly they're trying to console, but really they're telling the dog, yes, you should lunge and bark at that dog.
Yeah.
Because that's what reinforcement is
And,
for.
okay, so say, you're walking a dog, we have the e-collar on, and all of a sudden another dog's coming, but they don't have an e-collar, and sometimes the other dog starts
Being reactive.
being reactive first, you know, and then.
Yeah, he can learn to ignore that. It's one of the harder things to learn, but he can learn it for sure. So reactivity is a spectrum. Reactivity towards people tends to be the first thing that goes away. Okay? Runners, joggers, bikers, all that stuff. That tends to be the first thing. The next thing would be calm dogs, old dogs, dogs that are just kind of minding their business. That tends to be the second thing that goes away. Excited or puppy type energy tends to be in the middle. Then we go to other reactive dogs, or when you turn the corner and you're surprised by a dog. That's the end of the spectrum, meaning that takes the longest. Does that make sense? Because you can't plan for it.
Yeah.
You're just walking,
Well,
you
that's
turn
kind
the
of what
corner.
happened also with the joggers.
Yeah,
It was not
it's a
like,
surprise.
okay, it's not like we were on our block in the middle where we turned and saw someone coming where, okay, we could just even go in the driveway, turn him around,
Yeah.
you know, you can press it and say no, and just get his mind off of reacting to the movement coming
Yeah.
at him.
So the
But-
way we address those things is, what does your dog look like now?
He's fine.
He looks
He's
relaxed.
calm.
He's still stressed a bit. You can see him panting, right? Is right or before I started tapping him for stuff, he was anxious, overstimulated.
Yeah.
Okay, he is under stress. So when you go out into the world, he's already under stress.
Yeah.
So when you turn the corner and there's a surprise, he's jumping from 5 or 6. But if you have your dog relaxed, 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Now you have an escalation, which gives you a window of time to de-escalate the dog. So we always teach owners about keeping their dogs in a passive state, calm, making sure we're reinforcing good behaviors and not things that we don't want, like the reactivity or whatever. And all those things combined start to eliminate the problems, like the random lunging or the surprise lunging when they see a person or a dog or whatever. Does that make sense? And also appropriate conditioning. So the other thing here is, was the harness something that you guys added in, or is that something from your trainer?
Well,
So he originally said that we don't need a harness, just to use his collar here.
Uh-huh.
But I felt like lately, especially because like he's getting bigger and everything, and like he's with them like the majority of the time. So obviously like they're older and like he's like a lot when walking and everything. They added the harness that
I
he
did
had.
recently, only because I felt like I had better control of him if I, needed to get him to sit
Sure.
versus him pulling with just the collar.
So harnesses actually provoke reactivity. It can exacerbate the problem. Have you guys ever heard of opposition reflex? It's when an animal feels tension, they want to go against it. So if you pull back, they want to pull more forward. If you pull left, they pull right. You pull right, they pull left. They want to go opposite to the tension, okay? So what happens with the harness is, because it's on the chest, and you might see some that are front clip harnesses, right? Because, and they're called no pull harnesses, which is an oxymoron, because harnesses are meant for pulling. That's why horses wear harnesses to pull carriages. Huskies wear harnesses to pull sleds, right? It's meant to pull. So what happens with the front clip harness is that when a dog pulls, it twists the front legs and it diverts the pulling power. So the dog can still pull, it just diverts how much strength they have, because with the regular harness, the dog can push forward with its hind legs, pull forward with its front legs. So it gives them a lot of leverage over you. Plus our center of gravity is here, his center of gravity is lower, and that's usually where we get this happening, right? So what happens is, you have your dog in a harness, you see a trigger, you prepare for the trigger, but now you're probably putting tension on the dog, which is causing opposition reflex, which is causing frustration. And plus, if you're preparing for him and he feels that negative tension, he thinks that dog is a threat. Because all of this started kicking in when we saw that dog. So now it empowers him to become even more reactive. Does that make sense? Here, I wouldn't even want him on the flat collar. Because of his size, I'd most likely recommend that you put him on a prong and an e-collar. The prong is that spiky looking collar. I don't have one up here. Have you seen that before?
Just like the metal
Yeah,
one?
not the chain, but it looks like spikes.
On
Have you
it.
seen
Yeah,
those?
yeah.
Yeah. And he'd be a 3mm appropriate fitted prong collar up here with the remote collar below. And the reason why I suggest this is, in the beginning, while you're trying to work through things, there's going to be mistakes. Is the prong collar gives you the ability to immediately contain the dog without them overpowering you while you're using this to correct the problem, okay? Eventually we get to the point where we're not worried about that anymore, right? But in the beginning, it's most likely gonna happen, and that's how we work through those things, okay? So I earlier I was like, did your trainer teach you how to correct these things real time? Because it's an important skill, especially if you have a dog that's reactive. Obviously this guy can't get ridden up again, so we don't have any space for error here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But the harness goes against the e-collar, because the e-collar is saying don't pull, but the harness is saying pull.
Okay. Yeah, we
And-
haven't used it in a long time. I guess I just did it recently. I just felt like, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. The other thing is, because of with the flat collar, with the right, they're putting pressure on their throat and stuff. Dogs can collapse their trachea. It's more common in smaller dogs, but it can happen because it's just putting so much pressure. This was when I deal with the bigger cases. I usually just recommend clients do prong and remote collar. They're perfectly safe to use together. They don't interact with each other in any kind of negative way or anything like that. Okay. Other questions?
Do you have any questions? Anything else?
I don't think so.
I don't know. He's like a very like observant dog, I would say too. Like even when like I see like in the past I've seen another person coming like with the dog, I feel like he almost sees them like before I do because I'll see him like go like this.
He sees everything before us, even taking him in the yard, because we have a lot of
Oh, I know.
squirrels. He looks, and like, I swear, I'm looking all around, like, where
I
is
got a
it?
question.
He's
Yeah.
got his eyes on it.
I mean, like when he was little, not little, but younger, I used to take him, like we used to take him to the dog park, but I see some dogs, no leash, and I asked the owner, I said, like, how old is that dog? It's like 6 months old, but it's just running, doesn't bother anybody, doesn't attack anybody, same type of dog. I was like, how is that possible?
It's personality type.
He's also a mix, Dad.
So the breed, I don't fall into the breed thing. Like there's some things for sure. Like if you get a border collie, like they'll do border collie things like herding type stuff because it's in their genetic code. But when it comes to good dog versus bad dog, it's just personality type. Like you could get another dog, do all the same things you did with this dog, and they would be completely fine because of their personality type, right? I get clients that do things by the book. They do everything right, and you guys try to do everything right. You hired a trainer, you did remote collar, all that stuff. It's just, it wasn't the correct information. Does that make sense? For this particular dog, okay? When you get a dog that's, and I get it where clients are like, oh, the dog's already off leash trained, I don't get it. I'm like, the dog's not trained. It's just a good dog because it's not harassing anybody, So for people, it's funny, dogs are good as long as they're not aggressive, okay? Here's an example. I had a guy, his dog had really bad separation anxiety. He tore up all the drywall of his house and chewed off the doorknobs when his dad would leave. Okay, he was that stressed out. And he's like, yeah, he's a good dog, except it's when I leave he becomes destructive. And I'm like, doesn't sound like a fucking good dog to me, right? Destroying the house, right? But he wasn't aggressive. Does that make sense? Or I'll get people that say, oh, my dog's good 99% of the time. It's just that 1% of the time when they're aggressive that they're a bad dog. And I go, no. I was like, if the dog's being aggressive, whether it's the 1% or whatever, that 1% is what's going to cause a lot of harm, either to a person or to that dog. Because ultimately the dog ends up paying the price. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't think of it as like you screwed up your dog or anything like that. You
I
didn't
know,
do anything
sometimes
wrong.
I think like, oh my God, it's like we have this,
No.
the
Yeah,
bad
but
dog.
what happens if there's another issue with the dog?
I mean, they ultimately told Mom that he would get put down.
Okay. So
I mean, it's possible.
I take that, yes. So I've had a few experiences like this in the past where dogs get, written up or, clients are worried about the state taking the dog, whatever. It gets pretty complicated and it's not that straightforward from my personal experience, okay? I'm not a lawyer or whatever, but I can give you a couple of examples. So one would be, in the South Loop, I had a client. Their dog was attacked by a Cane Corso. Do you know what a Cane Corso is?
No.
They look
It's
like a
massive dog.
yeah, it looks like a pit bull, but like 2 times bigger. Okay, it's a huge dog. That dog, they were walking down the west side of Michigan. The dog charged from Grant Park over Michigan through the street and attacked their dog. Okay. They pulled the dog off, and then my client said, look, I know a guy that can help you. That was me. Okay, he's like, here's the information, you should call him up. He called us up, he never booked a consultation. But that dog, he was still taking him to the dog park. He was still letting him run around off leash in the South Loop every day. And they were calling the alderman, they were calling the police, they were reporting it to everybody, animal care control. It took months of negligence before anybody even did a thing.
Yeah, but we live in Deerfield.
So is Deerfield a bit different than in the city?
Everybody's different.
Let's say the residents,
Okay, gotcha.
and that
Gotcha.
I feel like they wouldn't let
They make everything's a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you know, it's a different type of neighborhood.
Are you planning to try to bring this dog into the city? Like, what's the goal here?
I mean, like, I would like to comfortably be able to bring him where I am because I know that there are a lot of dogs in my building. Like,
Is it like a apartment, like condo building,
Mm-hmm.
or is it tight hallways and everything?
Mhm.
Okay. So
I mean, like, on the floors where, like, the apartments are, like, there's a big, like, lobby space and everything, but he's been there before, but we've been very careful, like, when we have brought him there that, like, nobody's around and everything, but I just know there's a lot of dogs
okay.
in that building.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about the training options, but then also touch upon what would be like the best options for this guy, considering he doesn't have really any in Deerfield anymore. Okay, is in person is always the way to go because you learn the most. Okay, I already know how to handle this. Clearly, right? I have your dog now to 35, and you see how I was able to just calm him down, and I haven't told him a thing. So this can be done, but I need to educate you to be able to do what I can do. Okay, it's much more straightforward than you would think, but there's going to be some ups and downs. Okay, that's just part of the process. That's how you learn. If you did a board and train option, which I would say this guy is a candidate for, the problem is you're not going to see, how do you say, you're not going to experience the progress from point A to point B.
I don't think that I want him to do a board and train
Okay.
again because that's what we did last
Time, okay.
And I feel like, I mean, like, I am able to take the information well and like make him do it, but I feel like they should also be involved in that too. Like, I want all of us to be able to do it no
Mhm.
matter like where he is.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you guys can speak upon it too, but I know it's a time commitment, but like, I mean, like, I feel like he needs like the right instruction. It's not just like Jesse's gonna tell him what to do and then like it's like never again. Like, you have to carry it out.
Yeah.
Like,
So what separates, just that you're aware, or distinguish our board and trains from other programs, is we film the first session of everything that we teach, okay? And I put it all together. I make one comprehensive video. It's anywhere between 2 to 3 hours, and I send it to you, and then you watch it. So you see your dog being trained real time. So it means if he's freaking out, I work him through it, and I explain what I'm doing. Okay, that's the main thing. Is that most board and trains, you drop your dog off, you come back 2, 3, 4 weeks later, you get 30 minutes with the trainer, and then it's like good luck. Okay, we don't do that. I make a video for every week we have the dog. The first week is always the longest, 2 to 3 hours, because I'm teaching everything from the ground up. Even though he has training, I'm redoing it. Okay, so you understand this is how he learned. If there's a problem, you see me work with the problem, and I explain it, so you go, okay, he gave Jesse a problem, this is how Jesse fixed it, right? Mm-hmm. And then you always have it as a reference point. If we have the dog for 2 weeks, the owner would get 2 videos. The second video is always shorter because the first week is where the bulk of the learning is. The second week, we're just advancing the dog, okay? It does come with follow-ups, and that's all on our website. It shows you how many follow-ups and what you get with the program. That's one thing. I agree with you. I always recommend in-person programs for cases like this, okay? Because I already know how to handle this. I need to teach you how to handle this. Mm-hmm. The only drawback is you're coming from the city and they're coming from Deerfield.
Yeah.
Okay? So I don't care what you guys do at the end, but there are options for you, okay? The other thing is, in the meantime, what's gonna be tricky is you need experience controlling this dog regularly, but it's going to be hard because you're in a building. So then he'd have to probably be in Deerfield. So I'm not sure how often you'd go up there. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, I go up there usually every week because I'm a nurse, so when I work like a chunk of days in a row,
Mm-hmm.
which is usually at least every week, I'll go and stay with them instead.
Okay.
So I'm there at least like once every week.
Okay.
Not like once or twice every week.
Like
so,
for a day, for a couple of days?
Like for usually 2 or 3 days at a time.
That's actually pretty good. That's nice. We can work with that.
Because like if I work, let's say like I work rotating weekends, so I'll do like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I would be there like all 3 of those nights
Sure.
at their house because
I
the
gotcha.
hospital's closer to them.
I see. Sure. I got you. Okay. So that actually would make life easier. because my only concern would be, you go up for a few hours once a week, like that's not enough. You're not going to be training your dog for 4 hours, right? But if you're up there for 2 to 3 days, ideally you'd want to work with your dog at least 3 times a day, right? And that's going to start getting your comfort up. In order for, what I mean by comfort is like, you need to see failures and be able to recover. And then you also need to see, oh wow, that dog he lunged at 20 times before training, he's not lunged at all, right? You have to start to see the progress. The next thing is getting him ready to try to do, because the suburbs are slower pace, they're more open, whereas the city tends to be more condensed, right? So I've had it happen to clients where they go from the suburbs, they move to the city, and the dog is worse because there's more energy and it's more congested, and they live in a tighter space because it's like an apartment or a condo. Does that make sense? So then that's the next hurdle, is getting him acclimated to the city space. Yeah, you're doing a good job. There we go. What I would recommend most likely is just having him muzzled. Okay, it'll help take off a load from you, because then you're not worried about
Actually,
the.
yeah, I
Did
brought
you
one
bring it?
with, maybe you could even see if
I'll
it's
take a
the
look at
right
it, yeah.
size. We ordered a couple different sizes, just, thought if we had to do that, if we were walking down our street, in case people,
Yeah,
whatever.
Baskerville. That's good.
Yeah, if you could just,
So go ahead and pull it out. Was that a size 5 or 4?
5.
Okay. He might be a size 4, but we'll see how this looks.
Well, we still have the 4 at home. I didn't bring it, I'm
You
sorry,
brought
yeah.
it. We bought 4, 5, 6 just in case.
It's funny because we had all our muzzles up here, but since we're rearranging things, they all have to get down downstairs.
So like for the in-person trainings, Stu started while she was pulling that out.
No.
Would that take place like here or like in a public space? Like how, or do you rotate it? Like how does that work?
So during the winter time, I know it's nice weather right now. We do train here at so where you walked in, that big open space, that's
Okay.
where I usually train with my clients.
Okay.
If we need dogs, we pull dogs out.
Okay.
So we can do controlled reactivity.
Okay.
During the summertime, we actually train out of Oz Park,
Yeah.
which is the busiest park in Chicago. You got strollers, rollerbladers, bikers, dogs, off-leash dogs, people, parties, yoga classes. Like it's the busiest park. So you're right there in the thick of it. So if something
Yeah.
happens, like if the dog becomes reactive, I coach you through it real time. I don't ever really touch the dog. Very rarely do I do. Okay. So you're learning everything hands-on yourself. Go ahead.
Because I also, like when I work at Trader Joe's, and sometimes when I get his nails clipped, I'll bring him outside the doors there.
Uh-huh.
And of course, everyone wants to come out and pet him or whatever, and he sees, people going in and out, in and out.
Yeah.
I mean, he's fine
Okay.
in that circumstance.
Okay.
I think
He's not
he
pulling me,
gets-
he's not whatever, he's sitting there, he's okay in that circumstance. I think it's,
Mom, but that is a situation that he is probably used to by now because
Well,
you've
yeah,
taken
yeah.
him there so many times. It's like these new, like when you bring him to like a new location and then he's like stressed like that.
yes. Yeah, different smells. Push, push. Push, push. We gotta get here,
I
right?
like that.
We gotta hook here.
Yeah, he's most likely a 4 here.
A 4, you think?
Yeah.
What you doing?
Has he been muzzle conditioned, or is this like his first time?
This
wearing
is
muzzle?
like,
No, we put it
just
on and
got
we'll
it like
see
this
what
week
happened.
because of
Okay.
like what's happened.
If you email, who books your consult, Maria or Tina?
I think Tina.
Tina? If you ask Tina to send you our muzzle videos, she's gonna send you a link. On that link, it's on my website, but there's a number of like resources there. There's gonna be like 3 videos going over how to appropriately or correctly muzzle condition a dog. I would start that process right away. It's very easy, you use treats and all that stuff.
I mean, sometimes after he, like, even when we've tried them on him at the house, after a little bit, he'll just, like, lay down
Oh,
with
it's a
it.
5, I was wrong. I'm sorry?
So after a little bit, he'll just, like, lay down with it.
Mhm.
Like, the first couple times he, like, tried to, like,
No.
he might even try to do it right now. Or else
Yeah.
he'll just sit
So this is the wrong size? you
No,
put?
this is actually the correct size, looking at it from here. Yeah.
The
you
other
guys-
one, I thought, the 4, we thought maybe his nose was like.
Right, it probably is
too
the
far,
thing.
And
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
of course, the 6 was way too big.
Yeah, no, this is good. So I still recommend muzzle conditioning because when he goes under stress, what ends
It'll-
happening is the muzzle takes away his primary form of defense, which is his mouth.
Right.
So then you start to see them ripping at the muzzle. We've had dogs rip off their dew claws. We've had dogs tear up their face. We've had dogs bite their tongues.
Okay.
So you could do conditioning and it still happens, but at least you know you did your work, you know? It'll just help him accept the muzzle kind of like as another thing that he wears. But that's most likely where we're gonna see some issue is when he goes under stress, he's gonna wanna remove it because he's gonna feel helpless. Does that make sense?
Yeah. that makes
It's a
sense.
very simple exercise. You literally bring out the muzzle, give him a treat, put it on, give him a treat, do it for 5 minutes, repeat it 2 times a day, and then little by little have him wear it, okay?
Yeah, we tried it a couple times in the house and let him see what happened. I did try giving him a treat to see if he can take the treat from that, right?
Yeah. And then gradually we would start having him wear it for extended periods of time just to get him more used to it. Because if you only use it, for example, like I have clients that put the muzzle on when they go to the veterinarian, and the dog learns muzzle veterinarian, so then the dog starts to become resistant to the muzzle. So we want to have the dog, sometimes he just wears it for no reason, sometimes he wears it on a walk, sometimes he wears it when we're doing training. It just becomes another thing. Does that make sense? But yeah, the muzzle here, this is good because he's, at least right now, not being super resistant to it. But this is something that you could also start doing to inhibit another potential bite. Okay?
Yeah.
While you're trying to get
he's
things
good. When we tried
under
the
control.
different ones, I mean, he was good about it. He lets you put it on and then
Yeah.
just kind of.
And don't think of the muzzle as a bad thing, it's a good thing. Like it's a tool. It's meant to help one, protect your dog from harming other people and protect people as well, right? But depending how it is over where you guys are at, I'm assuming as long as he doesn't make contact with the person, like
Yeah.
that he won't get written up for it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm just worried that like not even, I don't think that he would just get in trouble for like another like biting. And the biting that did happen, it literally was just like a few scratches. Like it wasn't
Did he
like
bite
a
the
deep like,
I don't know.
He probably
just
scratched
said-
her with his paws
No,
or something. too.
That's-
he
like,
broke the
that's
skin,
even,
when
like,
I looked at it.
even
I
to
didn't-
that extent, I feel
it was
like they
a
would
little
get like
tooth
him in
mark.
trouble for, even if it was just like him jumping or like with his,
First one, he just jumped on the lady and scratched her arm. That's all he had.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, just with me.
But people over there, they
He had
everything
some-
is a
Well,
big
they'll
check.
go to
Yeah.
urgent care
Like-
and they'll
They
make,
all my
Pencil.
whole family gets involved.
Yeah.
They call the
It's-
police.
I understand.
It's, yeah.
We had a
and
client
I go
that,
to the vet and you gotta get the rabies
And
checked.
I would just
and-
turn
and-
around and go.
Yeah.
But
I guess-
not them.
No, I understand.
I-
We had a client that her neighbor sued her twice for the exact same thing. The dog literally just jumped and like scratched her, literally, like filed a lawsuit, tried to sue her. My other trainer had to go to court and like testify, because after that happened, she worked with us to train the dog, whatever. So then we had my trainer who trained the dog went to court with her to say like, you know, what happened. It was just the dog scratched the person. There was no bite or whatever. Plus we trained the dog. The dog's not an issue anymore. But yeah, you'd be surprised at the shit that people do nowadays.
Well, yeah, and then in our neighborhood, unfortunately, then it always turns out, they spooked the dog. Unfortunately, I don't want the dog nipping anybody, but he got startled.
Yeah,
The
no, I
people in the
understand.
neighborhood, like, take it to another, in our
Yeah.
neighborhood, take it to another level.
I mean, since you said you lived in there, I mean, you know what kind of people live there. It's that
You
those
look for other
people,
opportunities, and obviously, these 2 instances, they
they're
were
all
not dog
sissies, you
people.
know.
but I feel bad because I feel like he's being defined as like
Aggressive
these
or something.
2 things that he did, but like, I mean, he's not like that all the time. I feel like it's like you said, like he's having a reactive response to something that's making him uncomfortable.
I mean, he does that too. If someone comes to the house,
He probably sees his reflection or something.
yeah, he jumps.
That's cute.
He jumps on people just to greet them.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, obviously people
That's
don't.
not a mean, that's
Yeah.
not, yeah.
Yeah.
He wants to play. You know, it's like
Yeah. It's just how they perceive it though.
Like for the second time after like he like jumped on this lady, he just sat there and like looked at her
Yeah,
like
dragged
he
her
wanted
arm,
her to like
and
play
then,
with him.
Yeah, I said, sit, and I had the thing, and then he sits right in front of her, like, okay, now you can pet me.
Yeah.
Like,
Now
I
I think he felt like
and-
she's
Yeah.
not gonna harm him,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say in person, if you can, I would put you probably at a 6 to 9 week course or class. It's once a week for an hour. If you started sooner, we would still be here, but don't worry about, because clients always worry about like, is this going to transfer to my home? The way I teach you how to figure everything out on your own, because I want you to be able to think like me, right? So like, I wanted to calm your dog down. What did I do?
You just kept pressing
Yeah.
each time he was doing something he wasn't supposed to,
Yeah.
but you didn't say anything.
Yeah, I calmed them down, right? So I already know how to do this. So this is more behavioral, but we need some obedience so that we can prevent behaviors from happening. That's why the heel is so important. Okay, that's why I was asking about the heel with the previous trainer. And this is why I also don't say no. Let's say your dog lunges at a person. You say no, right? The dog stops. Do you want him to lunge at another person?
Not every person.
So are you saying to not say anything? I usually say like stop,
Yeah,
I
but
guess,
what
instead
if
of no.
you don't have that thing?
Yeah, so this is where you'd always want to have this, because without it, remember, your dog has the ability to gamble the behavior without consequence, right? And what I'm getting at with the first point, with if you say no, right? Unless it's a bad person, you don't want your dog lunging at people, right? So it's no, and don't ever do that again, is really what you're conveying. But the dog goes, I lunged, you said no, you corrected me, so this time I'm not supposed to. But what about the next time?
Yeah.
So now you have to say no every single time, but technically he can lunge until you say no. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We want the dog to not lunge, period.
Yeah.
So the difference is when we're correcting behavior that we never want to see again, we don't say anything.
So not saying anything, but if you need to, you're pressing that, but not even saying stop or no.
Correct. Okay? Because if you say no or stop and you press this, he thinks no or stop made this happen. Okay?
See, like the first trainer said the opposite.
Yeah, they said no.
They said
say
no
no.
and press the button.
Correct. That's a very common theory, okay? Because that's how humans understand. But we're not dealing with the human, we're dealing with the dog. So I want him to learn, if he lunges without any warning, this is gonna happen. So the only way to avoid this is not even to try it, right? You know, if you run a red light, there may be a ticket, right? So as a human, you can process that and go like, well, I don't want to get another ticket, so I'm just gonna stop at the red light now, right? Dogs don't have that capacity. Dogs are simpler creatures, okay? So when we want to do what I call eliminate behaviors, we say nothing. Like right now, I wanted your dog to relax. So I said nothing. I just corrected him the whole time. I don't care if he sat, I don't care if he lay down, I just want him to relax, right? So I told him, don't be anxious, don't be excited, don't be overstimulated. And now I create relaxation, okay? Obedience is heel. Now you walk with me. Sit. Now you put your butt down. Come. Now you get over here. That's cued behavior, right? We can't just expect the dog to know to heel.
Yeah.
You have to tell him. But behaviorally, he should learn to not lunge at dogs, not lunge at people, not lunge at bikers, joggers, all that stuff by default. I don't want to have to worry about if I turn the corner and I see somebody. I'm not going to have time to say no,
Yeah.
right? He just goes, nope, not supposed to do that, so I'm not going to. Okay, so that's the end goal.
Right. Right.
And this is all stuff that I, of course, cover. So I would put you at a 6 to 9 class course. It's 1 day a week for an hour for 6 to 9 weeks, depending on what you go with. If you do 6 classes, I really condense things and I only focus on the stuff that I know you need. Heel typically takes 2 classes. We do the first part, you show up, I coach you through everything with your dog. I explain it to you, I give you your homework, you go off and you practice for the week. Okay, you come back the second week. You give me feedback. Oh, he's 50% better. He's less reactive. He's not staring at a jogger or whatever. I go, great, we already made progress. We work on the second half of heel. Go off, do your homework for a week. You come back and give me more feedback. Is he the same? Is he better? Is he worse? Right? If you're struggling with the lunging still, I go, no problem. Let me go get something to make him lunge. Right? Bring a dog out, run around him, whatever it is I need to do to provoke the lunge. Correct it, control it, show you how to do it real time, go off, rinse and repeat, okay? Typically with reactivity, in most cases, we get it done by the second or third class, if not the first class. Okay, every case is different. There are some stragglers out there that may take a little bit longer, but typically by the second or third class, reactivity is for the most part done. Remember, reactivity is a spectrum. So like sudden run-ins with dogs and stuff like that takes the longest to help fix, but everything else tends to progress pretty quickly, okay? The other classes, I would most likely want to cover recall, which would be come over here in case he gets off leash, or if you want to give your dog the ability to be off leash, up to you, obviously.
Right.
Or if you want to cover more behavior stuff, we can. If you want me to show you how to introduce him to another dog correctly, we can.
Right.
But I know in your particular case, the biggest concern is the lunging, right? So we want to make sure we knock that out first.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's, for the most part, whatever it is that you would want, okay?
Right.
If you did a 9-class course, it just gives us more time to make sure that we can get everything under control. And that, and if needed, or not if needed, if there's class left over, we can cover more obedience type stuff. The more control you have over your dog, the more freedom you have with your dog, is what I always tell everybody, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Questions?
How long is the class?
An hour. And I would focus on the primary handler, so I would kind of talk about...
Who's gonna train the dog?
Yeah, so if the goal is to bring this guy into the city with you, I would most likely focus on you first, and then whoever walks the dog, who walks the dog the second most, or the most, in general, between you two?
I do.
You do. Then I'd work with you second, okay? So that while he's in the suburbs, when she's gone, you can still do the training. When she goes to the suburbs, she can practice the training, and we start getting him ready to move into the city if that's the goal, okay?
That's not the goal, though. He's not coming in the city.
He wouldn't like move to me. I'm just saying I feel like
think
I
she
would want
wants
him to be able to.
Because there's a lot of dogs in her building, so if she were to take him, say if we also went out of town and
Yeah.
she's watching
I
the
see what
dog
you're saying.
runs,
Yep.
there's some on her floor and the others in the building, and just to feel comfortable taking it out to go to the bathroom or wherever they are, and not, because it's busy streets and stuff.
I gotcha,
Because
okay.
sometimes
So
she'll
that-
come see me there and
Yeah.
like we'll want to bring him, so he's not like there
I
alone.
see, I
with
see,
you.
I see. Okay, I thought you guys were trying
No,
to,
it's just
because
also
of the thing.
the same things, but just, she needs to still have that, she needs to have control in case
Yeah, so then what we
we
could
bring
do
him
then,
there and has to be walked outside of the building there in the city, or if, say, we went out of town and she's watching the dog, he needs to be able to.
what we could do there too then, because I've done this in the past for other clients, is you could do an in-home. It's just a $50 upcharge, where I would
Oh,
like,
you would come
go
to
to,
me.
yeah, because you're in
Okay.
the city.
Yeah,
I
I'm in
go to the suburbs,
Ravenswood.
but it's super expensive. In the city, it's just $50, okay?
I'm in Ravenswood, so like
You're still in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know where you're at. Yeah. So what we would do is like we'd meet in Ravenswood, get a few basic things down, in kind of whatever you think you'd have issues getting on the elevator, going to the hallway, getting into the lobby, work through all those things piece by piece, and then little by little, you practice until you feel comfortable. Okay. Other questions on that?
Do you have questions on like the?
So now we need to,
Yeah, so I would put him on
upgrade his
the
collar.
the Dogtron Black Edition. So I was able to relax him here, but there's nothing going on,
Right.
right? This is an empty environment. You want, especially if he's going to be in a building, tighter quarters, the dog tends to get more stressed because there's less space to escape. Does that make sense?
So what is the other one called?
It's called Dr. Black Edition. Tina will
Black
send you the
Edition,
information.
okay.
Yep. She'll send you the info. It's the best collar there is. It's the highest power the collar is. It's meant for a 70-pound dog and over.
Okay.
So it's meant for a dog his size. Okay. And then I'd also recommend you put him on a prong collar. Tina will also send this information. He's most likely going to be on a 3mm Herm Springer. Those two things together will give you the most control over your dog. Okay, and really mitigate a lot of risk. Okay.
And then with the prong collar, is there a loop on there so his leash gets hooked to
Correct.
the prong
The-
collar?
yeah. There's it's called a live ring. It swivels and it jiggles. You clip your leash to that. And what I would most likely recommend is you get a coupler. A coupler, it's a separate clip that clips a prong collar and it clips to your flat collar. Because sometimes, I'm not sure
So
if
he
you're aware.
would still wear the flat collar and the prong collar?
Yes. Or you can remove the flat collar.
And the e-collar.
What you could do
He doesn't
is,
need the flat collar.
Okay.
If you're
what
gonna
you could do
connect
is
the
clip
leash to
the prong and then because the coupler is prong collars can come undone. I'm not sure if you're aware of this.
Oh.
It's rare, but it can happen. It's happened to me a handful of times in 12 years of training dogs. So it's a clip that clips to the prong collar and a second clip that clips to the other collar.
Okay.
So in case the prong collar comes undone, the dog is still secure.
Okay.
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 So yes, you
Back
could
up.
remove the flat collar, and then instead just clip your coupler to the e-collar.
Okay.
Okay,
So
as a backup.
you're saying this harness is no good?
That's garbage. That goes
No,
away.
No,
Okay.
That's what he's saying, so.
no,
he
but I'm
would
saying,
get the
Okay.
prong
like
collar.
this, he wouldn't have this either, he would have the,
Okay, okay.
the E-collar and the prong collar.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, at minimum 6 classes. I would say if you did 6, it would be 2 on heel, 1 potentially on reactivity, controlled context, 4 maybe an in-home for you to how to bring him into the
Right,
building or
right,
whatever. 5 and 6 you can treat as variables, meaning if you wanted to cover reactivity again, we could have another class on that. If you feel very confident with what you've learned, you're like, hey Jesse, I'm feeling really good. I have control over my dog. He's a good dog, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I go, great. What would you like to learn? Oh, I'd like to learn recall. Okay, let's cover recall then. Okay. The other one would be stationary control, where you tell your dog not to move, like that little mat there, right? So if you have guests come over and you want him to lay down and mind his business for a few hours while your friends are over, you can have that level of control. Just depends on how much we spend on the reactivity stuff. Okay, I think this is going to be straightforward, but shit happens. If you did a 9-class program, it's the same layout. We just have more time to address issues if
Yeah.
it's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. The hardest part, I think, is going to be in your building, the tight quarters. Okay, that's just going from previous experiences. But for all I know, it could also be super easy. Every case is different. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like the only hard part about my building is that like we also have like a garage that's like connected to the like main lobby too. So sometimes people just like come right out of there with their dog, or come in the front door, or come out the elevator. Like there's so many like places that the dogs could like come out of. I guess I'm not so worried about like my particular floor, because like I could just go down the stairs with him. Like I could just like it's more so like him taking him outside too. Like there's dogs of all sizes in my building, like small and like just massive.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
right there is the pool in the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right next to pool
Same
and park.
Yeah. So anywhere you think you'd have a problem, you know, if you did the in-home, I would help you figure out how to maneuver through all those things. Okay. Completely up to you. Again, if you needed him to come and stay at your place, whatever, if they go out of town,
Yeah.
at least you have your
Yeah.
framework. But otherwise, I think this should be pretty straightforward. Plus, he's tolerating the muzzle well, so that makes life a lot easier. Okay. Anything else?
Do you have any questions? Anything more? With like
What will be the time?
oh yeah.
That
You
day?
can schedule that schedule with Tina, but I do have availability on the weekends, which was probably easier for you guys coming from Deerfield.
Much easier.
Yeah. So what you can do is talk about how many classes you want to do, no less than 6, 9 if you want, 12 if you want full control of your dog. Okay. If your concern is the behavior stuff, 6 should be fine. If you feel like you want more, you can obviously do a longer program.
So every class is 1 hour.
Yes. You can extend the class by half an hour. I believe it's just an extra $100 for the half an hour extension.
What's
If-
the class cost?
For 6
or is it,
classes,
like each or like how is it
No,
grouped?
for
Like
6 class.
for 6 classes, I think it's around 12 to 1400. It's on the website. Okay.
Okay.
The cost of the collar itself is around $340-ish with tax.
Yeah.
Okay. The prong collar is around $30-ish with tax. Okay. But all these prices are on my website, and you can also ask Tina, and she'll also send you the
Send it
pricing
to
as
me,
well.
okay.
Yes. The easiest way to go about it, and I know you have a rotating schedule, is to send us windows of time that you guys would be available. Okay. So if it's Saturday between 4 and 10 o'clock at night, say Saturday 4 to 10, because my schedule is all over the place. So it's
Okay.
easier if she has a window, because sometimes people go, oh, Saturday at 12, you know, Sunday at 1. Like they're very specific times, and we're like, we need more because I have 30 clients. Okay, so if you provide windows of times that you're available, that's fine. And if your schedule rotates, there might be a time where I don't see you for a week or 2. Okay, it's not going to inhibit the training. It's more time to get more training in.
Practice,
Yeah, because I have other clients that also have a similar schedule. Okay,
Yeah.
so Other questions?
Do you have any other questions?
No.
About him?
I don't think so. So,
So when he, what do you think, like, after, let's say, we finish 6 or 9, whatever, is he gonna be, like, off leash?
Do you want him
So
to be
that's
off
something
leash?
that we can choose to work on.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't.
Hold on a
I
second.
know.
I'm
If-
asking.
I mean,
Maybe.
that should be something that, like, is a goal for him. Like, I feel like that's a achievable goal if it's something that we wanna do. It just has to be something that you wanna work on, then we have to incorporate
Correct.
that in the training.
This
I think
tool,
we need to get through the other,
yes.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean? Because talking about that, I feel like, oh my God, I feel like that's a completely different dog
Yeah, but I mean.
to do that.
when you
I know. I mean,
leave
I
him
would
in
love
the
it too. We need
backyard,
to, I think
that's
we
what
need
I'm
to deal with
saying. I
these
mean,
other
I
issues
don't have to
first.
worry about leaving him on the street.
Yeah, so are we capable of training the dog off leash? Yes. The variable is just behavior. As long as we get the behavior out the way, we're good, right? The next part is just being mindful, right? So like I had a client whose dog was super reactive, like one of the worst I've worked with in my career. And he had his dog off leash trained. So when he was at the park, he would just go and find an empty part of the park because his dog liked playing fetch. And he would just play fetch with his dog. But if he saw like another person running with their dog, he would call his dog back, leash him up, wait for them to pass, and then when they were gone, he'd unleash and then just continue playing fetch. Being cautious, right? Instead of being like, oh, I have off leash training, my dog should be able to do this, because that's more ego than anything, but technically, yes, okay? But it is time and effort. But yes, your dog can be to an off leash level with these tools, okay? At minimum, if you're wanting off leash, 9, 12 is if you want fully off leash, okay? Other questions?
did you have something that you wanted to say, Mom, before Dad said something?
Oh, I don't remember what I was gonna say. No, it's just that, yeah, taking him to the vet, I didn't believe it, but the 2 different vets when I had to take him for the check, they said, you can't break a dog of his habits.
No.
I didn't believe it though, but
Look at him now.
I know.
Veterinarians aren't trainers. They're also not behaviorists.
You know, they were like, no, that's, they kind of just said it's in his genetics to
No, no.
be aggressive like that.
No.
Those instances, or you can't break a dog of that, but
No.
I mean, I don't believe it, but.
So I've learned to stay in my lane in my career. I'm a dog trainer. If your dog came with a broken leg, I'm like, I'm not a vet. I don't know what to do here, right? But when it comes to training stuff, vets, for whatever reason, are always very willing to give their 2 cents, but they know nothing about behavior. The vets, all they do is throw pills at things. Here, put your dog on
Well, that's the same
fluoxetine,
thing with
gabapentin.
doctors, unfortunately, Sarah.
What? What?
Doctors, pills.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm an ICU nurse.
But,
Yeah. So as long as you put in the work and how to say you follow the instructions, we were going to make great progress. Okay.
See, like, that's another thing, like, I just remember, because during the day, like, there's nobody home.
Mm-hmm.
So we leave the dog alone, like,
That's
all
fine.
day.
Mhm.
So she goes to work, I go to work, and she's not there. So, like, how are you gonna train him, like,
That doesn't matter. What matters is when you're outside with your dog.
Like when he is taken like outside, like on a walk, or in the house when you are home and just practicing stuff.
Yeah. If he's barking at people walking in front of your house, it doesn't matter. Because, and technically speaking, he's protecting the home, right? Because he's alerting them to like, hey, there's a dog in here. That stuff doesn't matter. What matters is when you are with your dog, when you're outside with your dog, if he's going to be off leash, right? That's what matters. And that's when these tools come into play. Otherwise, when he's home alone, he doesn't need the collar or anything like that. Okay. Anything else? All right.
Yeah.
Good job. Like even like right now when I got up, like
I mean, he's watching you, but
yeah, but this I've seen way worse than this. Okay, this to me is like a mild case. Like if he was really aggressive when he lunged at the lady, there would have been puncture wounds.
yeah.
well, there was, he did growl, and
Did he puncture?
I know the officer said he thought he went through the skin. I didn't see it, I saw like one little, like a black
he said
bluish.
skin.
You know what I
Just
mean?
broke
It's
the
not
skin.
like, there was not like, no, I didn't see blood, nothing like stitches, not like he ripped her arm, but he, you know,
Right, right.
he's got a big mouth,
Correct.
you know.
He's a
He
big
growled
dog.
He growled and grabbed, her, and then sat down, he sat down and was like, no,
Sure. So this is the other thing that I
now
look
you're
at.
okay, I'm okay.
If he intended to do harm, he would have. You would know.
Of
It
course.
was 10 stitches, it was 20 stitches, like you
Oh,
would
God,
know,
no.
right?
Yeah, no.
So, but for me, the reason why that's important is that gives me an example, right? Like I get dogs where like you can't even walk in the house because they'll latch on
Yeah,
and they'll
no.
just bring you in.
Yeah.
That's a 10, right? This guy may have lunged, there may have been a growl, he may have opened his mouth, he may have grazed, right? But the thing is, he had opportunity to do more than that.
Yeah.
And he didn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's how I evaluate things. Is when I get up, when someone tells me the dog bit someone, I go, were there punctures? You know, were there tears?
And of course,
were
yeah,
there shaking?
this time, yeah, the woman was like, oh my God, what if he like bit the face of a child? What if that was a child?
said
And
that?
I had to not say too much because then I would have been.
She was just making a big deal out of
Yes.
a little
I mean,
situation.
like, he's been past kids in a stroller. We have kids come in the house. He's not, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was just,
Yeah.
that wasn't
Right, I
his
said
think-
that,
circumstance.
I said that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that's more information. Like you said, he's been around kids, and there's not been
Yeah.
an issue there, right? So all of that tells me stuff about your dog. So
What's
this
her
for me,
name? Kimberly's.
Kimberly's my grandniece.
Like she
yeah,
was like
she's
2, and he just wanted to like lick her face.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was curious. Like he probably like didn't want to leave her alone. Like he kept like going
So should we
for her,
take
but
this thing?
yeah, you can
out?
take the muzzle off. Yeah.
You can take them off.
Yeah. So
And you can take that off.
I have scars all over my body from dog bites.